Hi, I'm Sarah with Brass Bunny Vintage. Welcome back to my channel. It is time for a what sold in the month of August, and I'm giving you my profits as a vintage reseller here in Michigan. These are going to include everything that I sold online and also in my local booth. Okay, this is my very first, very vulnerable video where I share my profits for the month of August. This is August of 2025. I'm Sarah with Brass Bunny Vintage. I'm here in Michigan, and I have a local booth in downtown Holly, Michigan, and I also sell on Etsy, eBay, and Poshmark. So I'm going to tell you what I made in profit for the month of August in 2025 and walk you through my sales. If you're a vintage reseller, hopefully you find this video really helpful, and hopefully my vulnerability here and just being really open with my numbers will be helpful for you in your journey. Okay, I've got my notes, and I will also put a screenshot of the item sold just to show you what it looks like up in the corner. Okay, let's start with eBay. And I sell on Etsy, eBay, and Poshmark. I really want to get to where I'm doing more on Etsy. I'm also getting ready to open my very own website here in the next 30 to 60 days. So then I will be giving you numbers for that. Let me just start by saying it is great to have platforms to sell on like Etsy, like eBay, like Poshmark, Mercari, any of those places. But remember that you don't own that. So if at any time as you've grown your business, if they decide to like take it down, you just lost everything. So it's so important if you're really planning to make your business a full-time thing, or you're trying to brand yourself, to somewhere in the future own your own rights to your content. And you can do that through your own email list and your own website. Okay, there's my plug for that. All right, the first thing that sold this month, or in the month of August, were these copper leaf sets. I believe I picked these up for about $3 earlier this year, and they sold for $25 plus shipping. I also sold this wicker bread basket, and it sold for $6.25 plus shipping. I picked this up, I think, in February or March for $3. I sold this MCM decanter. I took kind of a lowball offer on this at $20 plus shipping. I think I paid a couple dollars for it, but I've had this in my stash for almost a year. It did take me a while to list it because I kind of forgot about it. And so again, I took a lower offer on that. With eBay, I always add shipping. If you are a reseller who is just like, well, I'm going to do free shipping, just make sure that your shipping price is included in whatever you're selling the item for, though, because you can definitely lose out big if you offer free shipping. I sold these butterfly wooden napkin holders. So cute. I also had these forever, and I ended up taking an offer for $10 plus shipping. I sold this Nora Tate casserole dish. This one sold within just a couple weeks. It sold for $21.75 plus shipping. I sold this, I believe it's like, it's a religious print, mother of, and I don't want to say it wrong, so I don't remember. It was all listed in the listing, right? But I actually sold this for $55 plus shipping. I pick up a lot of religious art, framed art, figurines. They seem to sell within a couple of weeks every time I pick them up. So if I can get them at a good deal, I'm always picking those up and reselling them. I sold this pink depression dish, like this little lidded dish, for $28 plus shipping. I sold this brass magazine holder. This is my second time finding one of these in excellent condition for a very inexpensive price. This sold within days for $76 on eBay plus shipping. I paid $5 for that. I sold this vintage vines top that I've had since spring for $18.06, and I paid $1 for that. I sold this spoon rack for $88.31. That includes shipping with Etsy. And I paid $6 for that at Goodwill just a couple months ago. Any kind of cabinet, spoon rack, spice rack, those always sell pretty quickly for me and for a really good profit on Etsy. Just a heads up there. On Etsy, I also sold this vintage pencil box. This sold within just a couple days of listing. With shipping, it was $32.70, and I paid $2 for this. I sold this Japanese trinket box that I got at a dollar. I got it at a garage sale like a month ago for $1, and I sold it for $47.67, which includes shipping. I sold this ironstone set. Okay, so here's why I talk about it's great to have a booth, but you should also be selling online. This ironstone pitcher and basin sat in my booth for 3 or 4 months at $40, and it just sat there. And I put it in there because it's big, and I don't like to ship stuff this big and just the ceramic. Just so many things can go wrong. But I finally brought it home and I listed it, and within 2 days, it sold for $112.31, which included the shipping. I paid $6 for the set at Goodwill a couple months ago. So again, if something's not selling in your booth, bring it home, throw it online, see what it's doing. But this is why it's so important because, again, this sat in my booth for months at $40 and didn't sell. I sold this brass music holder. This was so cute. I got this at a garage sale for $1. It sold within days as well. And it sold for $47.08, which included the shipping. I sold this carved seaman. So I don't know what is up with like the captains and the sailors and all these carved figurines, but every time I see them, I pick them up and they have a great sell through rate. I bought this one for $1. It sold for $41.12, which included the shipping on Etsy. I sold this decanter, this large one. I've had this one for about a year, which is surprising because I just think it's such a cool decanter. I sold this for $69.30 plus shipping, and I paid $6 for this like a year ago. And finally, on eBay, I sold this vintage brooch, and I didn't pay anything for this. It was from one of my husband's cleanouts, and I sold it for $20 plus shipping. Okay, Poshmark. Instead of listing every little thing individually here, I'm just going to put like a screenshot of just my screen of sales from Poshmark. I don't do a ton on Poshmark because I don't list as much. I need to get better at it. Poshmark is definitely one of those platforms where the more you list, the more they show your items, you get offers. I use Auto Posher, which is now called Nifty. And it shares my listings, likes people's listings, all of that. I have seen a huge help in that, but I'm just not listing as much. I'm not cross posting as much over there as I should be. But whenever I get back into cross posting, I immediately am making sales. So I need to get better with that. But in the meantime, on Poshmark, I sold this Anthropologie cardigan for $15. I paid $1. I sold this Michael Kors blouse for $14. I paid $1. I sold this Givenchy perfume for $28, and I paid a quarter for it at a garage sale last month. I sold this set of Peanuts ornaments for $12, and I paid $2. I sold this like antique fraternity costume. I had this for 6 or 7 months, and I took an offer on it for $75, but I didn't pay anything for it. It was from a clean out my husband did, so I was happy to take that. I sold this Izod golf shirt. I took an offer for $6. I paid $1. I started, if you remember, I was telling you that I started selling clothing about a year ago. And when I first started selling or buying clothing, I had a lot of like really dumb buys, or they were things from cleanouts that I thought I'd just throw up. So some things that are selling really inexpensive are things that I would never pick up again. And I just wanted to get it out of my inventory. I sold this lot of Polly Pockets for $29. I paid $1 for those. I sold this Calvin Klein herringbone cardigan jacket for $25, and I paid $1 for that. Now, I will tell you, Poshmark is very heavy on offers. Now, if they make an offer, it's sealed. So if you accept it, you're paid and all of that right away. Like the transaction goes through. You're not paid right away. But I do get a lot of lowball offers on Poshmark, unlike other platforms. In fact, I think Poshmark is even worse than eBay when it comes to lowball offers. But um, if it's something that I've just had and I would never buy again and want to get rid of and I paid $1 for it, I'm happy to let it go. So in my local booth this month, this is incredible because this is my third August in that booth, in that space. The last 2 years, I don't think my check was over 100 and maybe 10 or $15. August is always an incredibly slow month. This past month in August of 2025, I sold 50 items, averaging around $17 an item. I made over 800 and some dollars. I don't have the exact amount, but after commission and after booth rent, my check was $597 for the month of August. So absolutely crazy. And I think the biggest thing that helped me was the very first week of August, I made my booth entirely fall. little bits of Halloween, not much, but I mean, I went full-fledged fall and it was selling like crazy. I made my booth rent by like the third or fourth of the month, and fall is just, it's like I can't keep enough fall in there. And I'm very heavily stocked with fall stuff. So I will do my numbers a little bit differently next month to give you exact numbers. But before the cost of goods, my total payouts for my booth, for eBay, Etsy, and Poshmark for the month of August was $1,552.55. Again, that is after fees, after shipping, all of that, but before cost of goods. Not a huge month, but let me also say that I really kind of went on a vacation in August, like just mentally. I was like, look, it's hot, it's humid, I'm exhausted, I am just needing to take a break, get time away with my family. So I did not list as much as I could have. In fact, I worked probably more heavily on my booth than it shows in the numbers. But I thought it was a pretty great month for the fact that I was very inconsistent, which is not like me. So September, September is the time in the online space, especially, to get as much listed as you can. When I say that I make 40% of my income online in September through December every year, September is the month to get visible and to list, list, list. If you have death piles or just stuff that's been sitting around and you're like, I'll get to it, like I was the whole month of August, um, September is the month, really. I mean, this is going into my second full holiday season, and I was just blown away last year. I had great sales, and I really wish I had just listed more. So September is what I'm going to call death pile month or money pile. Get those piles of inventory that you need listed. Get them on there because people are, kids are back in school. People are starting to Christmas shop. They're starting to decorate their homes. They're starting to just buy a little bit more senselessly because it's the holidays. Thanks for hanging out with me for my very first What Did I Make in the month of. Hopefully, I'll be doing this every month. That's the goal. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Please subscribe if you like this kind of content or you found this helpful. Leave a comment. Let me know if you're a vintage reseller or just a reseller in general or have an antique booth. This was super fun, and I will see you next time.